Hello everybody and welcome to Pravus Gaming and another Hearts of Iron 4 Kaiserreich series. For those of you who do not know what Kaiserreich is, one, where have you been living, but two, I would highly recommend you take a look at my German Empire playthrough first before you get into this because it also uses the Kaiserreich mod and explains a lot of the mechanics. But if that's too much for you, here's the quick synopsis. Kaiserreich is an alternate history mod for Hearts of Iron 4 that asks and attempts to answer the question, what would the world look like if the Germans and their Central Powers had won World War I? And as we found out in that series, it looks very different. Empires and autocrats remain, and Syndicalists have overthrown France and Great Britain. It's a pretty fun campaign, but now we're going to try playing as somebody else. Specifically, I want to play as the United States. Now, the United States, in this world, to my knowledge, are one of the only remaining democratic nations in the world. There's a lot of empires, lots of syndicalists, but not much in the way of democracy, which means they're a bit more isolated in this alternate history than they are in the base game. But on top of that, the Great Depression still has not lifted, and the economy of the United States is ravaged, leaving a lot of political turmoil in its wake. Basically, we're in a position where the United States is about to erupt into a civil war. And we're going to have to try and navigate through that the best that we can. Right now, we have the Great Depression still taking place, still reducing our factory and production, pretty sucky. And the political crisis, it kind of gives you a warning right here that in the 1936 elections is when something's going to have to get resolved. Either that, or the country is going to break apart, and we're going to have to pick a side. There's a few other things here involving the American Caesar, the American Cincinnatus, and the League of American States. Not too sure what all of this is going to ultimately mean, as much as maybe give me an idea which direction the nation might be able to go. But we are currently led by Herbert Hoover and his Republican Party. We are market liberals, and right now it says we have no elections, but I suspect that's because by the time we get to the next election in 1936, something's going to have to change or else the country is just doomed. So let's go ahead and get started in the United States and see what happens. Okay, so here we are, the United States in all of its waning glory. We have practically nothing to start. Look at this. Like 4 divisions of troops, 1 extra garrison in Panama, and that's pretty much it. We do fortunately have a pretty large navy, though it is very heavily outdated, but that's all we got to work with. Eesh. All right, let's take a look at setting up some basic research. We'll go for the basic machining tools, I think. And we'll go for probably, maybe not doctrine to start off. Let's see, it is currently 1936. We'll go for some infantry equipment. And we'll research field hospitals or something like that. We do have 1.5 million manpower to start off, which is not half bad. We do need to get some military factories going. I think we'll just start with some infantry equipment and maybe a tiny bit of towed artillery. And then the rest will go here as well. And building ships, I think we've discovered that battleships are pretty much the only way to go. So we're just going to keep building a bunch of battleships, maybe some carriers later, and so on. But I'm not too worried, honestly, about setting up the United States production. Why? Because I know that the Civil War is probably going to fire unless I can find a really sneaky way to maintain it, which I really have no intention of doing. And when that does, we have the combined syndicates up here, we have the American Union State over here, and eventually the Pacific states of America will fire off in the western border. The United States will then pretty much just fall apart as the 3 nations ravage it from coast to coast. So I'm not too worried about setting up a lot of factories and stuff like that. I don't actually expect to get much of anything. In fact, for construction, I don't even think we have much in the way of building stuff. I guess I'll go ahead and build a little bit down here in the south or something, maybe. I don't know, but there's not a lot going on. We'll just go ahead and build some factories and try to increase our production. Let's continue and see what's going to happen. I don't know how quickly the Civil War will fire. Could be pretty quick, could be not. I don't know. America in 1936. Here we go, an introduction. The United States in 1936 stands in crisis. The United States was able to escape in the First Weltkrieg, which allowed its prosperity to continue well into the 1920s. However, the victory by the German Empire and the French and later British revolutions would lead to the Wall Street crash of 1925. This sent the United States into the Great Depression and allowed the Berlin stock market to take its place in the world. The election of Herbert Hoover in 1928 showed promise of fixing America. However, Hoover was unable to fix the problems of the Depression. This has fueled the rise of radical parties in America, from the combined Syndicates of America on the far left and the American First Party on the far right. The fact that Hoover won re-election by the House of Representatives in 1932 and the fact that the Great Depression isn't over means that the problems do not look to be going away soon. Many throughout the country fear that disaster will happen should one of the extreme parties come into power or nothing is done to solve the depression. All right, we try to gain a tiny bit of political power, but as you can see, we are very heavily in the negative. Now, if you have never seen Kaiserreich before, again, please watch the other series. You'll get a lot more information. But we know that this really negative political power means we are going to have very low stability, which even further reduces our factory output, dockyard output, and so on. Our national unity is pretty small. We're pretty much just screwed through and through right now. Let's go ahead and pick up a national focus and see what can happen. So the 1936 election is here. Now we have to choose a side. We could go for President Reed, who I believe is... Wait, hang on. 1936 election, always false. Looks like we're going to have to pick a side, and then you can follow down whichever one we go for. That's interesting. So President Reed is one option. I believe he is the leader of the Syndicalists, and it would probably completely rework our nation. Huey Long is the leader of the American First Party, and would create basically a paternal autocratic system from the South. President Garner, and then there's President Curtis, I assume Democrat and Republican? I'm not super-duper sure. I guess we'll deal with this when we come to it. Then there's General MacArthur over here for our focus. And one of the common things that I have seen described for the American Civil War in Kaiserreich is you can think of MacArthur as a Caesar figure. He is a general who leads the nation to great battles, but when there is huge political turmoil and the nation is falling apart, will seize authority and become sort of a de facto dictator. A military junta will be imposed with MacArthur in charge. So very much the description of Julius Caesar and how he ascended to become emperor in Rome. Same kind of concept. We can either destroy our domestic enemies or protect democracy, declare martial law, and then all sorts of crazy things will happen over here. Not too sure what to do yet. Review the American military looks like a pretty well set up national focus tree. You can focus on the army, and there's a whole lot of other things to do here. The whack, blah, blah, blah. To be honest, I'm not sure how much any of this is going to matter, because odds are pretty good I will not continue to play as the United States. Odds are pretty good that I will pick one of the sides. I'm thinking I'm not going to pick the Syndicalists, because everything I've seen so far indicates that they are the strongest and the most likely to win the war. I don't want to play as the Pacific States because that just sounds a little bit boring. They declare independence but don't necessarily have to go to war with everybody else. And they're also fairly strong. That leaves pretty much the United States federal government as one option and the American Union state as the other. Now, the federal government is incredibly weak, perhaps a little too weak, not that fun. Also, I kind of want to shake things up a little bit. That leaves the American Union state as, I think, the best candidate for this playthrough. The American Union state, pretty darn weak at the beginning of the game, especially compared to the Syndicalists. But if we play it right, perhaps we will indeed be able to win the war. So we'll see. So if that's the case, I'm really not sure if there's much point in doing any national focuses, because it looks like I can't even do anything. The Second American Civil War, can't do anything here, can't do anything here, can't do anything here. There's literally nothing we can do until we have our election. All right, so let's move forward and see what happens. The assassination of President Kerensky in Russia. I believe we've seen this last time. It's a little unfortunate, but perhaps not a big deal to me. Are we even producing anything? We can't even build anything. Our nation is so weak, we are barely building anything at all. It will take 5 years to build a single factory. Oh, it's so terrible. All right, I'm not going to worry about the insufficient resources or divisions in basic training. Frankly, at this point, they do not matter. Let's see what's going to happen. World tension just increased by the Emperor of Japan. The Manchurian exploitation. Thank you. That's very nice. So yeah, starting off as the United States is a little bit on the dull side, isn't it? There's nothing for us to do. Black Monday. On the 3rd of February 1936, the Berlin Stock Exchange stopped sinking. It plunged. Fueled by the instability of the market panic, selling erupted as soon as the stock market opened. And basically, we have the whole Black Monday, Black Friday crap going on. And the nation is doomed. Okay, Afghanistan's fighting India, don't care. Electoral gridlock in France, so they're trying to decide which communist is going to lead them. Not really relevant to us. We just want to get to November if we can, because that's when the election should be held. Black Monday hits America. Despite the political turmoil going on throughout the country, it looked like the economy in the United States might finally be recovering after the Wall Street crash of 1925. However, today's devastating Berlin crash, they could really use a bit of grammatical checks in this. Get Grammarly. Has finally hit America and sent our economy into a downward spiral yet again. Reed and Long have come out railing against the corrupt bankers who let the crash happen. Curtis and Garner have both pledged to fix the economy should they win the election. They. Again, Grammarly would be good. Not our year. Oh, look, the Great Depression gets worse, apparently. And we lose even more political power. Profits from the legation cities. This has to do with the German, effectively, colonies in China, so I'm not too worried about any of that right now. Vice President Curtis recovers. Many in America... Oh, I guess Curtis is a Democrat. Oh, okay. No, wait. No, he's a Republican. The Republicans are in charge right now. I was thinking of JFK. My mistake. Many in America feared the worst when Vice President Charles Curtis, presumptive Republican nominee to succeed President Hoover, suffered a heart attack earlier this morning. The White House now has finally announced that the vice president is slowly recovering. Curtis would be the first president of Native American ancestry. But his poor health seems to be a dark omen for the end of the Hoover administration. Let's hope he will have a good running mate. There goes some more political power. World premiere of Modern Times, Charlie Chaplin's new movie. Modern Times is attended in New York by personalities such as Jack Reed, Marceau Peveur, Philip Snowden, who has come to the USA for the occasion. The comedy film, featuring Chaplin's famous Little Tramp character, is seen as an anti-capitalist and anti-Fordist manifesto in favor of the combined syndicates of America. After a few days, it is censored by the federal government, judged as too provocative so shortly before the election. So bad it was funny. And the Battle of the Overpass. Good Lord! There's a lot going on here to start off. In Detroit, Michigan, the automotive capital of the world, Walter, Reuther, and Richard Frankenstein. Frankenstein? The leaders of the United Auto Workers Association called a general strike against the Ford Motor Company and proclaimed themselves for unionism, not Fordism, demanding higher pay and less hours for automotive workers. At 2 p.m. today, a photographer from the Detroit Free Press asked to take a photo of the leaders of the UAW standing on an overpass with a Ford sign in the background. While they were posing, a group of 40 men from the Ford Service Department approached them from behind and began to beat on them with their batons. The group then continued their attack on some of the beret-wearing women present to pass out leaflets. This will hurt us more than it hurts the unionists. That is certainly true. So if you guys don't know what syndicalism is, it is an interesting branch kind of between communism and socialism, but mostly it has the idea to do with worker-owned means of production, right? Rather than the state owning the means of production and rather than private owners owning the means of production with private property rights, the people who work in the factory, each of them are partial owners of their own factory, basically. So it's worker-led production. That's kind of the idea, and as you might expect, that means that unions are especially powerful in syndicalism. So we're expecting to see that to be a recurring theme here. Very curious to see what's going to happen with the American Union state, though. I kind of wondered if I'd be able to manipulate the game and build a whole load of factories. But it looks like that's not going to happen, so this is actually kind of a big honking waste of my time. There's not a dang thing we can do. The United States is so pitiful, so pathetically crippled. All right, let's just go ahead and get as much of the Navy together as possible down over here, because we are probably going to need it. I have no idea if we're ever going to be able to use this. We'll see. The 100th anniversary of the Battle of the Alamo. 200 brave Texans fought and died for freedom of the newly created Republic of Texas. Remember the Alamo! For all the good that's going to do me! Yay! Man, this is boring. There's nothing we can do. Father Charles... Pause. Coulin's CBS radio broadcasts. 3 years from today, Father Charles Coulin started doing weekly a radio broadcast in America, and more than 50 million people turned on their radios and listened. He is a raving anti-Semite, claiming that the syndicalist revolution in France was fomented by the Jew, and that the Berlin stock market crash is an international conspiracy of Jewish bankers, and somehow people still tune in. His hate speech will not be tolerated by the church, and the Pope is expected to make a decision whether to ask the United States government to shut down his broadcast so his hateful message cannot reach the public. Do we shut him down and lose a lot of political power, but the Italian Federation likes us, or there's nothing we can do and we lose a little bit less? I guess we'll go for this, but, I mean, free speech, I guess, and all that, but still. Yeesh. I mean, it sounds like the American Union state are kind of like the early version of the fascist Nazis, but we'll see. The St. Patrick's Day flood. On March 16th, 1936, warmer than usual temperatures led to the melting of large amounts of snow and ice in the upper Allegheny and Monongahela rivers. I totally think I said that right. Monongahela? Oh my gosh, I did it. The rivers and their tributaries had already been over their banks and were now threatening the city of Pittsburgh. On March 17, the waters reached the flood stage of 25 feet. Overnight, heavy rain caused the water to rise even higher, and on March 18th, the water peaked at about 46 feet, 21 feet above the flood stage. Oh my god! We must help the people, or they have to fend for themselves. I guess we'll try. I mean, I'm not looking to completely destroy the nation immediately. Maybe I could just go for less and less political power and just destroy the country. That's an option. First International Congress between the Syndicalists and the Socialists. Don't think I care that much about it right now. Can we even, I mean, I guess we could try training up some divisions, but I'm not sure I see the point. Again, we're kind of expecting that all of this is going to get broken loose pretty soon, and we're not going to be able to do anything. Do I have control of the Panama Canal still? It's kind of acting like I don't. Oswald Mosley, elected as the chairman in the Union of Britain. Okay, so they have a new leader. Still waiting a few months, though, for something fun to happen. The trial of Sacco and Vanzetti. Sacco? I don't know. 2 immigrants from Italy have been accused of killing a guard and paymaster of a local bank in Braintree, Massachusetts, a town outside of Boston. The case has quickly become the trial of the century, for Sacco and Vanzetti are anarchists. Unsurprisingly, the CSA has come out strongly in favor of the 2 men, while the American First has come out against them. However the case goes, it looks like it will anger plenty of people. They're innocent till they're guilty. No, they're guilty. They killed somebody. It looks like it's going to make sure that everybody increases. Yeah, it looks like no matter what, some popularity of the other parties are going to increase. So we'll go for this. They're guilty. Look, I don't care if you support them politically. If they freaking murdered somebody, and you don't go in support of that, that's ridiculous. Edward VIII sends a letter to Hoover. With rising instability in the United States, the new king of the British Empire, Edward VIII, decided to send a private letter to President Herbert Hoover. While the media don't know the contents of the letter, it is speculated that the king warned the president that in case of choosing the radicals, Canada and her allies will need to take drastic measures if they don't want to spoil the stability on the Canadian-American border. So in other words, if the Syndicalists and the American Union State take over, we might just go to war with you. What am I supposed to do? Our ideology has grown. Market liberals, nah, we don't need this. I would prefer to stick with our divisions that we have right now. The AFP paternal autocrats are doing fairly well. Military junta is gaining in popularity. It's actually, this is the conservative wing of the Republican Party. And this is the Republican Party itself. So I guess it's split into 2. Interesting. The conservative wing, there's 3 of them. How many conservative wings are there? And where are the Democrats? It's like, there are no Democrats. No Democrats at all? Okay, well, they're gone. They're extinct. A day in September. The social and political consensus in American society has broken down, and the current presidential election campaign is like nothing we have ever seen. The America First Union Party is organizing right-wing militias in the South and Midwest, and syndicalists control the streets of Chicago and Detroit. To avoid a complete breakdown of our society, some of our senior military commanders believe that it may be necessary to suspend the Constitution and cancel the election. Well, this is going to be interesting. So we could have the elections go ahead, lose more political power, or invite the military to step in and save the country. The authoritarian Democrats gain a lot of control, and the military junta becomes the ruling party. There will not be public elections, but that probably doesn't change anything. I bet you we're going to have a civil war anyway. Huh. What's best here? I'm not too sure. So I think in this case, if we were planning on staying the United States, we would probably want to go for the military junta and try to get MacArthur in charge and become our new Caesar. As it is, if I want to tag switch, I may have to go for the election, so we're going to give that a shot and try to keep the Constitution going. There's the 1936 election done and ready to go. We do not get to choose a national focus on this yet, though, so let's see what happens. We're going to pick Huey Long for the American Union State, but I don't think it's going to matter. Pretty sure no matter what I do, the people in the North are not going to accept that, and there's going to be a civil war, but we'll find out. You know, I'm not too sure why back in September I was saying we were only a month away from an election. Obviously, we were only 2 months away from an election. Sometimes I forget about October. Oh well. The 1936 U.S. presidential election. The results are finally in from what has probably been the most ideologically contested presidential election in the United States has ever witnessed. This is probably not going to be the end of our problems, but for the time being, victory goes to... Now the question is, how do we do this? If I choose the America First Union Party, do we get control of the United States and then we'll fight a civil war with the Syndicalists? Or how do we get them to fight? I want there to be multiple factions. Maybe I choose one of the normal parties and the other 2 both contest and that triggers the civil war. Maybe. Let's try John Nance Garner, the Democrats, and see what happens. John N. Garner has been elected as the President of the United States. Despite the massive instability rampant in the nation ever since the Great Depression in 1925, the presidential elections went forward and the voting results are clear. The Democratic candidate John Nance Garner is the 32nd President of the United States. Garner was defeated in the 1932 Democratic primary, but he has returned with his campaign focused on defending democracy and fighting both the CSA and the AFP, even with brute force in consideration. This stance has alarmed the left and right with radicals in the U.S., and the union's political crisis might turn even worse. Yes, that's exactly what I was hoping for. The American Firsts contest the election results. Damn you, Long. The CSA contests the election results. Damn you, Reed. Okay, seems like we're on the right track. Civil War? Yes? No? Long establishes the Minutemen. The America First established the Minutemen as a paramilitary force in the south of the country. You have to keep an eye on this. Our ideology has grown. No, don't care. Okay, so militias are forming. That's usually a bad sign. President Hoover supports the new president. Herbert Hoover threw his support behind the incoming president and hoping that he would be able to hold the country together in these tough times. His support is appreciated, though perhaps unnecessary. Hey, look, we have an increase in stability. Oh, that seems like good timing. It's not going to do much. We could choose national focus, by the way, expand the FBI or the Banking Reform Act and blah, blah, blah. But again, I don't think it matters because we're not going to stick as these guys for long. The New York Day Strike. In protest of the election results, the CSA has launched the New Year's Day Strike, which crippled the industries of the North. Councils of trade unions were set up to run the cities of the North during the strike. That's going to be a bit of a problem. Long's Southern Rally. In protest of the election results of the American First, and Long's launched a massive rally for support of the America First, also causing problems. The inaugural address of John N. Garner. After his election to the office of the president, Garner went forward to address the issues of the country and specifically labor issues. He was concerned about the influence of the America First Party, but it was the CSA in the North that concerned him most. He would not tolerate the interference by the CSA in the industry in the North and the prosperity of Garner's America. Okay, regain a little bit of political power. Civil War? The president responds to the CSA strike. Reed and the CSA had launched a general strike to oppose the results of the election. By the inauguration of the new president, the strike had been going on for nearly 2 months, and no one had devised a way of ending the strike. The America First Party advocated using federal troops, but this would further the problems with the CSA. Okay, so we can crack down with federal involvement. Local law enforcement is terrible, or negotiate. Nope, federal involvement. Crack down on them all with my 4 divisions. Oh my gosh, it's not going to be nearly enough. Federal involvement in the strike. The general strike by Reed had forced the federal government to consider option to either end the strike or get the industry back online. Long and the America First Party had suggested that unemployed workers in the southern states be moved north to fill in factories and start production again. This would solve the labor problem for the short term, but would cause further problems with the CSA. Send them in. Hey, they're infiltrating the CSA already. That's fantastic. The federal workers arrive. When the federal workers arrived, there was an immediate reaction from the CSA groups. As the CSA came out to protest the federal workers, they were met by groups of America First thugs who were protecting the workers. The America First presence had threatened to destabilize the situation. Send in federal troops to protect the workers and remove the thugs. Okay. Send in federal troops to keep the sides apart, or send in federal troops to protect the workers of the CSA. Let's keep them apart for the time being. The federal troops clashed with the CA strikers in Chicago. When the federal troops attempted to suppress the CSA and keep them away from the workers, the CSA groups attacked the troops with bottles and rocks. The federal troops were hard-pressed to hold the CSA back, and the America First workers are relying on the U.S. thugs to provide security. God damn you, Reed! Long offers the Minutemen to assist in securing the workers. The paramilitary group, the Minutemen, were considered nothing more than thugs by most people, but Long did not hesitate in offering them as a solution to the security concerns in Chicago. The presence of the Minutemen would no doubt aggravate the situation with Reed and the CSA. Accept it, or federal troops are enough. No, we don't want to have... We want to upset the Southerners. We want both of them to start this. And the CSA attacks federal troops in Chicago. Here we go again. Reed declares the worker state. The rise of the CSA. The combined syndicates of America have seized major cities and declared independence from the United States of America. The disaster has begun. Stand by the Republic or play as the CSA. No, we're going to stand by the Republic. And so it begins. The stupid, filthy Syndicalists. They are going to declare war on me, right? I assume. Yes, they've declared war. The Valentine's Day explosion. The ship Edgar Williams exploded in the New York docks only minutes after entering it. An investigation showed that it contained a large amount of explosives going to an unknown location. Some in the government think it is a plot by European syndicalists to smuggle weapons to the CSA. Average popularity, part of the Navy defects. And California has left the Union. The chaos and anarchy in the East is too much for the people of California. The governor has declared a state of emergency and has formally declared the independence of the California Republic. Long senses weakness. Long knew that the government was close to collapse and that he would have to make his move before he was overrun. He left for Atlanta and began mobilizing the American Union state. That scum! Long declares the United States a dead nation. The rise of the American Union state. And we are going to be playing as them. Boom! Now we are this tiny little guy right down y'all. Hello, American Union state. We can finally build things. Thank God. Let's go ahead and start building up some factories ASAP. I'm going to need to increase a lot of military production if I want to have a chance. Okay, so that's that. Military factories, we want to produce only infantry equipment as much as possible because we need to mobilize the militia. For trade, I guess none of this matters. I don't have any transports at the moment. For research, let's go ahead and start over with... Now, did we retain the exact same technology we had before? It looks like we did, so there was a good reason to research technology as the Americans. Although I bet you the combined Syndicalists also have this tech, so I don't know. Maybe there's a balance in there somewhere. It's 1937. What kind of stuff do we want? This is pretty good to start. We could start working on some new tanks. We don't have anywhere near enough stuff to do that, though. Let's go for some interwar artillery. Let's go for the superior firepower doctrine. Or do I want that, or do I want mobile warfare? Nah, superior firepower is probably pretty good. We're going to go for the mechanical computing, and we are going to go for construction, because I want to get factories up as soon as I can. Free dockyards. I mean, we can start building some battleships for all the good that it's going to do me. We need to start training up some new divisions. Now, we do start with the National Guard Division, which is a militia type. Militia only require infantry equipment and manpower. They're very, very cheap, as opposed to the infantry battalions of infantry, which require manpower, a bunch of training time, and even more infantry equipment, which right now I'm very, very low on. So perhaps we want to train up as many National Guards as we really can at the moment. And I think that's exactly what I'm going to do. So let's try training up the National Guard as quick as we can, set them up in Atlanta, Georgia, so that we will be able to declare war and get this going. Whoa, more nation states joined. Thank you. That's useful. All right. Insufficient resources. We really do need some transports or something. North Carolina, Florida, Arkansas, and Louisiana have joined the American Union state. We gain cores on all of them. The state legislatures have voted to join. They were welcomed with open arms as they would help in the struggle for a stronger, more fiercely American America. Seems a tiny bit redundant, doesn't it? Yeah. Let's actually go to our production here and cancel the battleships, because actually we want to make convoys. I need trade to start me off. All right. Can I declare war on you? No? I'm just independent, but there's no war? There we go. Message from the combined syndicates. They have declared war on me. And we have also seen the Pacific states declare war. High popularity, which means we get extra political power, which is great. Industrial resources. The American Union state government has come into possession of resources that were left behind. So we get extra oil, steel, aluminum, tungsten, chromium, and rubber. And rise of the AUS military. The AUS quickly found enough troops eager enough to beat up the syndicalist menace concentrated in the CSA. Rise, my minions! Dealing with Reed and the CSA. Now that the CSA was no longer a part of the Union, it was necessary to destroy it, so it would not curtail the rise of the American Union state. Reed and the CSA must be destroyed. Now we can declare war on them immediately, which doesn't matter, they declared war on me, or lose political power, so I guess it doesn't matter. Long and the AUS secede. Long has declared the independence of the American Union state and begun arming his citizens. Death to the USA and political power. Which I think yes, because the United States is really weak, and I'd like to start taking some territory as quick as I can. So let's do exactly that. All right, we have troops. Get them in charge. Let's assign a leader. Sort by skill. I don't necessarily need a field marshal to start. Let's go for 25% reconnaissance is pretty good. Reinforce rate might be all right. Armor doesn't matter. Supply don't matter. I think reconnaissance or reinforce rate is probably the best. Let's go for this as our general. And we'll assign most of our troops, though, to a quick field marshal so that we can try holding the line against the Syndicalists when they do inevitably come after me. So let's get a quick field marshal in charge. He has division recovery and combat width, which is okay. Set up a front line along like this. You are going to set up a front line specifically in the border of Virginia, because we're going to push to Washington and try desperately to grab Philadelphia, New Jersey, and the rest of New York. Why? Here's my strategy against the combined syndicates. I suspect they are very heavily reliant on these ports for trade. If they have no trade, no resources, then their advantage by having so many extra factories becomes worthless because they can't have enough resources to keep them running. So my goal then will be to rush up the East Coast as quick as I can and take over all of those ports. That is the goal. Will it work? Hard to say, but we're going to give it a shot. Let's see. Offensive line will be, let's say, to New York City, basically. This is what I want to do. All right, we're going to see what happens. I do have some infantry divisions, though. That's pretty nice. They're my best reinforced. Otherwise, the militia are quite weak. The Second American Revolution. The Second War has officially broken out, and now I can choose new national focuses. All right, so our entire national focus tree has been reworked. That's pretty fun. Let's see, what does this all involve? We could build up our military and try to get a lot of military factories, I guess. I don't know. You know what? I need a little bit of time to read this. Give me just a second, because this is all new to me. Interesting. Most of this stuff is actually kind of irrelevant because we're not going to be able to do anything until the Second American War is over anyway. Man, the Second American Civil War. What a freaking idea. Okay, so we're going to go for the economics of war. This will give us a research bonus for industry, and then after that, we could go either for... Hang on. Corporate economics, which would get me a lot of civilian factories. We probably can get a lot more infrastructure and stuff like that. Or populist economics, which get me extra military factories, which I really do need. So we're probably going to go down the populist route if we can. Rebuilding the military looks like it has some experience and a lot of research bonuses, which is nice, but probably not as important as production. So, okay, the Second American Civil War has begun. Let's mobilize the troops. I need to get over Texas as quick as I can. Why? Because they have a load of oil. So if I could get the oil, that'd be great. Let's actually take you and create a quick offensive line. Something like this would be nice. I don't want the rest of these guys going anywhere. Hold the line, please. Maybe we can get to the river. The river's much easier to defend, but I need to get Texas. I'm also guessing that the United States got some free units or something. Because, yeah... They got more people down here. Okay, the rise of the AU's Air Force, so I guess we got some free planes. Part of the Navy has joined us, thank you. The Second American Civil War has begun. We gain claims on the entirety of the United States. And we also get some infantry equipment, which is great. Okay. And Cuban volunteers. The Cubans have assisted to arrive us against the CSA. Free manpower, thank you. The Second American Civil War. To uneducated foreigners, it might seem like the crisis in the United States happened out of nowhere, but experts agree that this was a civil war years in the making. Ever since the collapse of the New York Stock Exchange in 1925, the economy of the United States has been in constant downturn. Now the United States has devolved into a three-way civil war between the loyalists of the old government, the syndicalist combined syndicates of America, and the conservative and xenophobic American Union State. There have already been reports of arriving volunteers from Europe to fight for a faction of their liking. The Second American Civil War might just be the first of the many battlefields between the great powers of the world in this tough time for humanity. It is a significant development. All right, my troops should be getting in position. Go. If you have the opportunity, freaking go. Take stuff. The Kingdom of Siam has been taken over by Socialists. That's fine. Let's see. Canada seizes New England. Oh, okay, so I guess the combined syndicates don't get any of that. Let's quickly adjust my front line. Take over Pennsylvania, if and you please. Something like that. Okay. So yeah, in response to the CSA expansion, the Canadian government has seized New England. Foreign troops have marched into America, but the American Union state has no real ability to deal with them. We'll not stand for this and declare war, or we have to deal with them later. I cannot fight Canada right now, so we'll say we deal with them later. Dixie Metal. The war was hard on the... This sounds like a band, by the way. Dixie Metal. The war was hard on the American Union state, as it had less resources than the other powers. The people of the AUS rallied and began handing in pots and pans to be melted to support the war effort. This increased the metal supply in the American Union state. Get some extra aluminum and steel. Thank you for all the good that's going to do me at the moment. Okay, rush, rush, rush. Grab Washington. Grab the factories in Virginia. Freaking take on the combined syndicates. Non-aggression pact. No! I'm probably going to kill you. All right, we can get some planes together. Let's do exactly that. We're going to go to this. We're going to set up... Where'd my air wings go? Oh, they're all right here. Group up. Go here. These are bombers, so we're going to have air superiority here, and you guys are going to do close air support here. See if that works. Unassigned divisions. Okay, you're going to go to this. There's a lot of them, actually. Man, we've created a bunch of... Oh, yeah, we're training up a whole bunch of new people. Perfect. I forgot. It doesn't take long to train these guys. Nice. I guess we can assign some more to this. Okay, missing equipment production for artillery. Yeah, I'm aware. Insufficient resources. We do have some convoys now. So let's try trading with the German Empire and try to get them to be my friend. Okay, we are struggling a little bit against the militia of the United States at the moment. The Austrian Empire has declared war on Hungary, apparently. Let's see if we can go through here and get some of the rivers under control. I really do want to get that oil. That's got to be a high priority. About as high as getting all of this, to be honest. Looks like we are able to push back the militia here, so we're pushing all the way to Washington. A new flag for the Republic. While most of the troops of the combined Union state are battling both the old regime and the combined syndicates under the Eagle banner of the American First Party, some units, especially those raised in the Deep South, have been flying their own colors. As this situation has come to the attention of President Long, a special committee was raised to determine a single flag for all the forces. The Coast Guard flag, the Saltire and Star, the Sword and Torch flag. What's the Saltire and Star? I mean, I kind of like the Eagle, but is this good? Let's give it a shot. This is our new flag. Oh! Hey, you know what? I kind of like it, though. That's not bad. Okay, we're going to go for that. It actually reminds me a little bit of the Southern battle flag in some ways, which is probably okay. The South shall rise again! The South shall rise again! Hi-ho, Dario! The South shall rise again! Hey! Get out of here! What do you think you're doing? Go to Washington. Syndicates are trying to take the strait. That's not allowed. No! I should probably push up here, actually. Untapped oil reserves. Get some extra stuff here in Louisiana. You guys are going to go around this way and reinforce. We have a huge problem here, actually. We need to assign a new front line here, I just realized. Okay, so let's grab some of the infantry divisions. Assign them here, so that we'll be able to push them back. And please, 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 let's grab Washington before I end this video. Looks like we were able to grab some land over here, though probably not a lot. Can you quickly grab some of this? We'll try to cut him off in some way. You're reinforcing, which is fine. You need to stay... Well, you're getting pushed back. There's not much I can do about it, though. We're losing so much organization. Militia are not exactly good. But you do what you gotta do. In fact, they're completely out of organization. We can barely go anywhere. Maybe we should have at least a couple of infantry divisions brought over here. Actually, no. Keep them here. What I want to do, then, is create a new front line. Something kind of like this. And assign these three here. And create a new front line like this. Yes. That's sort of what I want to do. Okay, we didn't end this video here because we're over our time, but thank you all very much for watching. The Second American Civil War has begun, and it is going to be quite fun. Also, New England is a separate state. Hooray! I hope you enjoy this series. I hope you're looking forward to it as much as I am, because I think this is going to be quite a doozy, and I'm going to learn from some of the mistakes I made in the previous series to do a little bit better. So thank you all for watching. Hit that like button if you're looking forward to it. Leave a comment with your suggestions. Subscribe if you are new, and hit that notification bell. My name is Pravus, and I will see you guys next time.